Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, still coming in hot from beautiful Cordoba, Argentina. Life's good here, food's unreal. If you like empanadas, steak, and if you like Malbec wine, great place to be. Super good nature as well. Pumped to be here with the lady. And we'll be back in Buenos earlier this month, and of course for Dev Connect in November, and our guest will be there too. Can't wait to get into this one. Love when a guest comes on for round two. That usually means they crushed it on and during round one, and we didn't even have enough time to really do a deep dive. We could have done a Joe Rogan 3-hour banger with this lad, and let's just say his company has gone parabolic since we've had them on as well. A bit of the Crypto News Podcast bump, as we like to call it. Today we have David Carvalho on the show again, founder and CEO and chief scientist of the one and only Naoris Protocol. He's one of the most seasoned voices at the intersection of cybersecurity and blockchain. He is the founder of Naoris, the world's first decentralized security solution powered by a post-quantum blockchain and distributed AI, backed by Tim Draper and the former chief of intelligence of NATO. 20 years of experience as global chief information security officer and ethical hacker. He's done a little bit of everything and been in crypto for a hot minute too. Can't wait to get into this, David. Pumped to have you on, my friend. Welcome back for round two.
Thanks, Matt. It's my pleasure. As always, can't wait to see you in person.
Likewise, mate. Gonna be a blast to share a nice bottle of Malbec Vino. And I didn't ask if you're a vegetarian or not, but if you are not and you enjoy steak, you're not okay. Dude, the steak in Argentina is all world. I've spent a good amount of time in Buenos as well, so a couple beautiful, nice steak dinners on me. Pumped to do this in person. Let's do it. Okay, let's get right into it. Before we'll do a quick review just for the folks who did miss round numero uno. You guys have gone parabolic since our first episode. I want to say we recorded in, I believe it was May or June. You guys, I don't even think you were I think you were barely live then. Maybe it was just finishing up. Just barely live then. Crazy growth since then. What's happened? Has anything in particular happened? Is this you guys shipping a bunch of stuff? Is this the market being very horny and bullish on on quantum, What is the main catalyst for your guys' crazy growth over the last couple months?
Yeah, man, honestly, it's been an exciting journey. We have been in a number of very, very large family office events where Tim Draper actually joined us on stage together with some former NATO generals as well, with some of the wealthiest family offices in North America, also in LATAM, both in Guatemala and in New York as well. And I think from then, things really started pumping. There has been also quite a bit of novelty in the quantum world / quantum risk towards all cryptography, including obviously blockchains. We are in a good position ourselves with all the research that we have been doing and peer-reviewed papers that we have been pushing together with universities. So there's also been a very interesting submission to the SEC that references us 3 times as kind of like the model for quantum resistant blockchain infrastructure in what's called the PQFIF, which is the post-quantum financial infrastructure framework. And we were mentioned there as kind of like being 2 years ahead of regulation. Things are coming very fast. 2028 is the date that, well, all enterprises that deal with any critical environment or government-related things need to be post-quantum. And that includes the whole banking system and other things that right now are like about. So I think all that, pushes things up with all the hype, as you mentioned, with the stocks going parabolic on the quantum computing scene. You need to actually be quantum resilient to operate. Otherwise, all your stuff is gone.
So 2028 is now the date.
Yeah, 2028 is the regulatory date publicly. In private, Of course, there's, fear is at an all-time high because regulation usually comes after innovation. So if that comes after innovation, then we should expect something big before 2028.
That's insane. Okay. 2026 is 3 months away, not even 83 days away. And then we have 2 years till 2028. Holy crap. Okay. There's so many ways I want to take this. Let's go into Naoris as a whole here. A lot of quantum projects popping off right now. A lot of quantum projects also coming into the crypto space. Let's just sort of set the table again. I know in the last episode you did a great job of explaining sort of who is at risk, who is the most at risk, I guess is a better way to put it. Satoshi's wallet, million Bitcoin billions and billions of dollars present day. A lot of the keys haven't been upgraded. It's still on a pretty old Bitcoin stack. That's very low hanging fruit. I believe you also mentioned some of the things that can easily be hacked if North Korea or Russia, and my apologies to the amazing North Koreans and the amazing Russians. I sometimes put you guys down. I'm just using your incredible hacking groups as examples because you guys do have some of the best hacking groups. But if they were to get a hold of an incredibly powerful quantum computer, they could go after the global supply chain. They could go after the global financial system. They could go after anything and everything. It seems like crypto is very low-hanging fruit as well because it's decentralized. But what do we need to do in order to safeguard things and make things post-quantum? Besides obviously using Naoris. We'll get into Naoris as well, but just as the general public, the whole, what do we need to do to get our quantum ducks in a row?
Right. So that's a very good question. As you mentioned, the quantum risk, in a way, the risk towards blockchain is a big risk, but quote, quote, in the whole grand scheme of things of elliptic curve-based cryptography, which is all cryptography in the world right now, pretty much is at risk of being broken by either Shor's algorithm or Grover's algorithm, depending on if they are symmetric or asymmetric key based. So in a way, the crypto area is maybe the least of your concerns. All financial reserves, financial services. I would say the highest risk sectors from quantum computing are healthcare, financial services, and financial reserves, government, national security areas. So critical infrastructure, electrical grids, utilities, telcos, telecommunication providers, transportation systems, port and rail, all these things. And of course, blockchain and crypto that, all these systems, they rely on vulnerable cryptographic algorithms. So 2025 is a pretty important year. I think it's probably our last chance to start our migration to post-quantum cryptography before we are all kind of like undone by cryptographically relevant quantum computers, or at least by a sequence of them, or a big one, let's say. So yeah, they could break all standards that we have created in the last 40 years in like 24 hours. So, these major risks posed by quantum computers or quantum capabilities regarding sensitive data affect everything. So I think it was the CEO of IBM mentioned this recently, every transaction that's done right now in a non-quantum resistant manner, it's a breach waiting to happen in the future. And that's everything from you revealing that you have a wallet with something, all the way to, just data being encrypted and being moved across the internet, and it's being harvested by other parties and being put in cold storage, which almost makes the quantum threat about when is the quantum computer coming almost irrelevant, because once that data is stored and it's encrypted and it's stored in cold storage somewhere, there's nothing you can do, right? I mean, eventually when there's enough quantum capability, even in series or in a big computer, it's all going to be broken, and your past, your present, and your future is going to be revealed to a potential malicious actor, right? So there are, quite, I would say, large pressures from regulatory bodies pushing for this in the Web3 environment. I think, ironically, we are slower, or things are moving slower, which is kind of like something that people not sure if they expect to hear that actually crypto is moving slower than Max on post-quantum side of things, because crypto is supposed to be there to replace banks. So there's quite a bit of work to do, but that's kind of mirrored by the kind of things that we see. Like, for example, for the first time, within the SEC, things like the post-quantum financial infrastructure framework being pushed as, for the first time, mentioning crypto projects as a potential future backbone for, financial infrastructure, and actually specifically mentioning us. So that's if you want to go into a world that backs critical infrastructure with, post-quantum capability from a security perspective and a resiliency perspective, I think that's the only way to start migrating right now. And that's something that a bunch of real world institutions are focusing on.
Yeah, but we're not focusing that much in crypto. Good point there.
I think it's kind of crazy because the developer community, for example, is focusing a lot on little things in comparison to that. they're not focusing enough on that, for example, at all.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Let's jump into Naoris here. You guys, since testnet in January, you have already processed 98 million post-quantum transactions and onboarded over 3.3 million wallets. Walk me through two different, let's start with the wallets. I guess we can sort of do it as a whole. This is probably a good way to give the listeners an intro to Naoris. What exactly, I think everyone knows what you guys do. You are a PQC, compliant or a solution to post-quantum cryptography. You're creating sort of quantum money. And how does, maybe just explain the difference between traditional cryptos like your Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solanas, your Hyperliquids, your XRPs, Cardanos, whatever, any of those in the top 10 versus what you guys are doing, and tie in the wallet as well, David, because this is a part that really interests me. And after the first episode, I did get a bunch of DMs, and candidly, I had questions that I couldn't answer on this, where it's like, is this a brand new wallet do they have to use? Can Naoris go into a Phantom wallet or a MetaMask or a Rabby? Walk me through sort of the consumer side of things and how the consumer itself can not only understand, but use Naoris as well.
Right. So Naoris Protocol really has kind of like two approaches. One is the blockchain itself that at mainnet will have the full capability of what we pushed out at testnet, where, for example, as you mentioned, 3.3 million wallets were quote unquote tested in the wild that users were actually using, and they relied as cryptographic sources for signatures to be derived and executed. And as you said, we have done, I think, more than 100 million transactions by now in onboarded all these wallets. All these transactions are post-quantum in nature. And if you go to our block explorer, you can see that instead of being like one line long of a transaction hash, you'll probably see, like 10 pages long post-quantum hashes that are resilient to quantum computers and following the lithium 5, which is the NIST standard there. So our objective was to put that in the wild. And because we had already used these in private networks for kind of like defense use cases, nation state use cases that were quite specific and in private networks. And we thought, okay, what if we use this at like global level, let's say? What if, the infrastructure grows to a point where, of course, we have, a cryptographic standard that's orders and orders and orders of magnitude higher than what exists right now in blockchains. So we're talking about like, all blockchains in operation operate with 32 bytes long keys. That's 128 bits, 256 if you multiply by 8 bits. And when you're talking about post-quantum cryptography, it not only is the key much larger, but actually the mathematical fundamentals are completely different. So they are resilient to traditional computation and also to quantum computers, namely Shor's algorithm, which is the algorithm that actually breaks traditional, cryptography, or one of them. And our objective was to see if this would grow to huge sizes, if the system wouldn't fall over or would have, any difficulties. And it surpassed our expectations, honestly. We had, of course, like with anything new, there's hiccups, but we never had an issue that was kind of like something that would stop the chain or that would reduce its speed or something like that. And we did that with very little amounts of infrastructure. So this was really, really cool to see, because we basically proven that, post-quantum cryptography can handle enterprise-grade loads at global scales, even nation-state grade loads. So it means that you can back or use this technology to back, GovTech infrastructure or, multinational infrastructure easily. So that's that. So there's the cryptography on the crypto side. And then there's the second part of Naoris Protocol, which pretty much makes traditional infrastructure into Web3 infrastructures without people even noticing. Basically, each device has nodes, and each node is validated by the chain to be in a trusted state before it can operate. And that validation is also done at post-quantum level. So that validation itself adds to the resiliency of the infrastructure. So normally, the more devices you have on an infrastructure, the more entry points you have, the more points of failure you have. Things can be manipulated, tampered with without, any kind of proof that they are in a trusted state or not. So we changed that. And that's under the consensus mechanism we created. That's called distributed proof security, or DPOSEC. That was one of the mandates that we had from former NATO leaders to support traditionally centralized infrastructures, which, by the way, all blockchains are relying on right now. It doesn't matter if it's, AWS or whatever, they're all relying on centralized infrastructure. So we ended up creating the biggest decentralized infrastructure in the world made of centralized devices. And they all use post-quantum cryptography to validate each other and validate that their data and they themselves are in a trusted state, and then sign the transaction at post-quantum level, making, it future ready. So there's these two parts to it. One is the infrastructure side, that's what we call sub-zero layer, that proves that all these layers that are below what we call layer 0 in Web3, which is infrastructure really, are in a trusted state at quantum level, right? And then if you can trust that, then you probably can trust its data, right? And then probably you can trust its transactions and, all the rest, because that's the backbone of change. And it's the backbone of infrastructure and whatever you're doing in the end, right? It could be an app, it could be a banking application, it could be a wallet, so on. So answering the second part about your question that people were asking you, like, what about the wallets? Can we use the wallets, as a post-quantum wallet? Actually, as part of our mainnet, we're looking to, I don't want to spoil too much, but we're looking to push a number of innovations around wallet technology. And we're probably going to do that with a couple of partners that I think are going to be very exciting for the Web3 community. So yeah, that's what I can say about that.
That's incredible. Okay. I think now's a good time to take a quick break. We'll have a huge shout out to the sponsor of the show and we'll get right back into it. I'm very curious to understand more about you guys' long-term plans once mainnet is fully locked and loaded, fully cooking. Is this going to be more Bitcoin style, quantum safe, where we are quantum proofing a store of value? Or is this a full-on chain where you can do absolutely everything, where you can have DeFi, you can have lending, you could have NFTs, the whole 9 yards? We will get into that in 1 second. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with David. To my last question before the ad read, my friend. The future of Naoris. Is this a full-on multi-use L1 chain that can do absolutely everything? Is this for a store of value? What is sort of the long-term goal and thesis of Naoris?
That's an excellent question. So I'll try to say that in the simplest way I can, which I'm not sure if I'll succeed. But okay, there's two main objectives, and they are completely interoperable between them. I would say they're almost dependent between them. One is the assurance that infrastructures are in a trusted state as they operate, including wallets, because I'm not sure if you realize, but all wallets, like your MetaMask, whatever, or your hardware wallet, they are single points of failure, right? They are outside of the blockchain themselves. They trigger blockchain operations, but they themselves are single points of failure, so they can be hacked.
The user is usually the single point of failure, right? Like signing a malicious TX, anything of the like. It usually comes down to the user, no?
Yeah, well, the user is human, right? So there's not much you can do about the user. The user is going to be the user. But what you need to support in terms of operations is like a completely different approach to how things are actually validated. Because right now, blockchains, again, I'm already failing the answer, but I'll go back to it. But just to answer that a little bit about the user. Yes, the user ultimately is also a point of failure. It's another one. But people are going to be people. Like, you're going to be using interfaces and doing the best you can do. Right? You're not magical. The system needs to support you, right? So what you need to have is a better, more resilient system that proves to you that whatever you're doing right now is actually good. And you have no way to prove that right now. So there's a bunch of assumptions that you as the user have, and you do the best that you can with those assumptions. And ultimately that backfires potentially, right? So if we change things, do away that those assumptions are actually provable to you, and you have transparency over those assumptions, then you're probably not going to make those bad decisions, because now you know that you know, right? So if you have a wallet right now, that wallet is going to trigger a Web3 interaction, right? It's going to trigger a blockchain operation, so on and so forth. But the wallet itself, and the connection between the wallet and services, but not namely the wallet, or maybe the infrastructure where the wallet is the risk in this example, right? Like you connect to a website, and how do you know really if it's malicious or not, right? Like you open your wallet and you want to make a transaction, like how do you know your wallet has been tampered with or not? Like by a piece of malware or whatever. What if that piece of malware is smart enough to, do it in a way that you won't know that that's the case? Like then you have no option. So
Yeah.
these are the fundamentals that we're trying to change. So we're trying to make everything decentralized. Like even the things that are single points of failure from a software perspective, from a system perspective, browser perspective, whatever, all of that should be provable to be in a good state. And if it's not provable, which is the case right now, bad things are going to happen, right? So we're going to basically show you or prove to you that everything is in a trusted state. Therefore, you want to make this transaction, right? Or you want to do A, B, or C that you're going to sign eventually, right? Look, if you do that based on a good premise or a highly resilient premise, that's going to solve a lot of problems. So I don't want to be more philosophical, but going back to your question, the future of Naoris Protocol and what is going to bring it's going to bring two things. One is this infrastructure trust layer that we that's under distributed proof security, that people will be able to come in and, play with the SDK, in Q4, Q1 when we come up, right, on mainnet, and interact with things, connect it to things, and build on it, right, either as partners or as individuals. And then there's the second part of it, which is the full-fledged chain, which is really kind of like a dual chain, one that is traditional cryptography and another one that is post-quantum. And the one that's post-quantum is going to mirror the other one. So basically,
So it's 2-in-1 kind of thing?
Yeah, it's 2-in-1 kind of thing. So when you come to the chain, you're going to be able to do things that you would do with other chains as well. Like you're going to be able to mint NFTs, you're going to be able to do smart contracts, you're going to be able to do dApps, you're going to probably be able to do DeFi and lending and all of that. But you're going to have the capability to plug in post-quantum and core validation to the infrastructure at every step, right? So it's a whole different way at how you end up mitigating risk for yourself and for the users, right? And providing transparency and resiliency to the future because of the post-quantum cryptography.
Interesting. Okay. So just to, and I don't want to get too deep into this because I know this is where it's way out of my pay grade here, David. You're literally one of the couple hundred people, maybe a couple thousand people on the planet who deeply understand this kind of stuff. But so if I understand this correctly, once mainnet is live, users like myself can do the traditional degen shit that we love to do, which will look, feel, and play like a traditional Web3 or I guess crypto blockchain. But on the back end, it's sort of being mirrored or secured by PQC tech, which is sort of Naoris's post-quantum blockchain kind of thing. So on the front end, it's like everything looks, feels, plays the same. We can do whatever we want. But on the back end, every transaction is getting sort of mirrored or saved or secured, I guess is the better word, by PQC tech.
Yes, that's well said. And if you want to leverage that PQC tech to do things directly under PQC natively, you can do that as well, including on the infrastructure side. So let's say that you have a bridge, like as an example, right? Or you have an exchange. For the first time ever, you can actually provide transparency over the trust state of your own servers, if you so want, to the community, right? Like when they go into, and they want to do like a loan or whatever, they will know provenly that even though they don't have access to your infrastructure, they can prove that your infrastructure is actually in a trusted state, that like it's following whatever standards you apply, yourself and other things like that. So think about it as kind of like a live infrastructure audit from a Web3 perspective.
Got you. Okay. Very interesting. Do you have a bit of a thesis on, I guess, again, a bit of a weird question here, but how I sort of look at quantum, maybe I'm looking at this completely wrong, but I feel like as we get closer to Q Day, a lot of people should take a percentage coming from sort of an investment manager. You know how they're always like, oh, you should put 5% of your portfolio in gold, 5% in bonds, 10% in high risk, the other 80 in, traditional blue chip S&P 500, blah, blah, blah. A couple of days ago, it was either JP Morgan or one of the big banks, I forget who it was, said that you should now have 5 to 10% of your wealth portfolio in crypto. Do you feel like people should, as we get closer to Q Day, put a specific amount of their portfolio into PQC compliant tech? Is this something we should be doing here?
It's very interesting. Obviously, I've been asked that question before. I'm not the financial advisor at all. I was just want to say that first.
Yes.
But, I would say what to do before today is really kind of like focus on the areas that process highly sensitive data, such as, payment systems, customer records, proprietary information, and determine and kind of like classify in your mind, what is high risk data there? Like, is it financial data? Is it, medical information, GovTech data? Because all those things would be a massive target in harvest now, decrypt later attacks. And I would say prioritize replacing them with environments that have encryption protocols on long-lived data that are PQC enabled. Like they announced that, or they announced they're going to do that, or something like that. That's what I would say. Like in investment wise, obviously, I can talk about myself personally. I don't know what other people would do, but in my own portfolio, I would probably put like anywhere from 20 to 30% in anything that looks PQ ready, or there's a good examples of some projects, for example, around wallets that are doing a good job. From a chain perspective, I haven't seen other chains that are in a mature state as we are. But there's also very interesting quantum computing technologies that are not cryptography related, but are computing related, that are obviously going to trigger the change. There's IonQ, there's D-Wave, and they have very different technologies, from photonics to electronics to other, whole point and other technologies that are in the quantum world that, are going to change the game, I think, in different ways. But right now, I would say it's still early, I would say, for investors to position themselves to benefit from the long-term shift. And also, as part of those 30%, from my view, I'm of course more inside the, the risk. I would put them in quantum-related crypto as well.
Gotcha. Love that. Dude, what an episode. What are you guys doing over the next couple of months? This episode is going to air next week, so this will be mid-October by the time this episode airs, early mid-October. Again, you guys have shipped so much. You guys have moved and grooved so much since I had you on a couple of months ago. Also, non-negotiable. You are now a recurring guest. You are one of the in-house quantum experts coming on the show here. We love having you on. What else is Naoris shipping over the next couple of months? What can the users look forward to?
Well, to tell the truth, we're going to be announcing very soon actually in the media or in different places in the media, the whole situation with the US Security and Exchange Commission, which for us, it's like a big deal, because we have been working for years on research and development around the post-quantum blockchains and infrastructure security, which in the end, is going to be the backbone of future infrastructure, including banking infrastructure. So it has been deeply meaningful, at least, for ourselves. And it represents a turning point, not only for Naoris, but for the broader recognition of, I would say, decentralized cybersecurity as belonging at the heart of critical infrastructure, and also quantum, of course. But the document that was published on sec.gov, I believe, which is an official government website, it positions Naoris as the reference model for most quantum or post-quantum blockchain security operations, including for things like post-quantum financial infrastructure framework, which is this work that was pushed by the SEC. But personally, after like 2 decades of cybersecurity, the next months, the ways that the way that I see that is like I see that as kind of like a sprint about building provable trust into systems by design, from airports to nation state infrastructures. So Q4 for us and the Q1, we're going to be focusing on very different exciting projects, from, stables to quantum related things to that, and other things, expansion, validation of the project, or further validation, because we have quite a bit of that. We're preparing our mainnet roadmap for Q4/Q1, onboarding strategic cross-chain partners, and continuing these kind of like institutional pilot programs that we have been having. And we're going to launch some new and exciting features. So, stay tuned. Our North Star is pretty much unchanged. The things that actually make us tick and drive us, which is to make trust measurable, provable, decentralized, backed by future-ready cryptography. And by the end of this year and beginning in the next one, I think we'll be several steps closer to that reality.
David, what an epi. Really appreciate you coming on as always. Every time you come on, I learn a ton and you scare me a little, which is good. I feel like it's, the yin and yang. It's very good. And again, really love what you guys are doing. And again, not financial advice, but if you guys do want exposure to one of the best quantum companies in all of crypto, highly recommend looking at Naoris. And again, the ticker is NAORIS. No financial advice, not telling you guys to buy it. However, I will say it's on my to-do list. Over the next couple months, last year I went hard into quantum stocks. This year I will be going hard into quantum cryptos as well. I'm very glad that I went hard into the stocks last year, and I hope that this will be a good move as well. And I'll keep you guys posted as I invest in these companies. But David, really appreciate you coming on. Before you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find, of course, you personally and Naoris online and on socials?
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. It's always a heartfelt pleasure to be here in your show and share some knowledge and get some knowledge too. So I would say, people go to naoris.com or naorisprotocol.com. You can also follow us on X or other platforms like that, including Discord and Telegram and so on. We're also being traded in the majority of the top 10 exchanges. You can also find us there. You can find a lot of information about us also on CoinMarketCap. Just to search on Google, you'll find all things from, peer-reviewed papers with universities and the IEEE Foundation with participating former NATO generals, etc., on our technology, all the way to a number of other initiatives that we have, including a bounty on traditional cryptography and a number of other things. So yeah, guys, looking forward to, catching up next time in your show, and pleasure to be here, Matt.
Folks, what an episode with David Carvalho, CEO of Naoris. Bringing the noise every time he comes on. Crazy epi on everything quantum related and the incredible work that him and the Naoris team are doing. Guys, do your research on quantum. It is coming. It will definitely, it's not even a fact of if, it's only a matter of when. But do your homework, and definitely, this is, in my opinion, guys, is one of these opportunities, sort of like, .com boom, and then the Web 2 boom, the crypto boom, the AI boom. The next boom is the quantum boom, and make sure that you position your bets accordingly. Huge shout out to David and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe, hammer that like button, and it would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, thank you so much for everything, guys. Daryl, you're doing a great job. And back to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.